and Leroy, thank you for your help and getting us set up here. It's a pleasure to be before you, those who are caring for Nebraska's county courthouses, because we see the value of reinvesting in these places in our state of Illinois, all across the states, and now I'm going to show you how our states are actually very similar in nature. So I have the privilege of operating the statewide preservation organization in Illinois, but I'm from Minnesota originally, which is why my accent is so strong. And I hope that, that you will see after this presentation how the value of your courthouses can benefit the citizens of your counties as well. I want to also thank you for the opportunity, because I got to know your courthouses across the state, from Tecumseh in the south, and the Johnson County Courthouse, which is beautiful Venetian revival, to Colfax County and Schuyler, which is a neoclassical. You have some beautiful courthouses. Cedar County and Hardington as well, which is a Romanesque revival courthouse, beautifully maintained. To Blaine County, which is where I grew up, in Blaine, Minnesota. So we actually have similarities here. And though this courthouse may not look like the others, it's still tremendously significant for the value it plays to the people in Blaine County and Brewster. And actually this has a connection probably to Chicago, where I live, because the form stone that you see here, this concrete blocks, were actually Sears, Roebuck made, or Montgomery Ward made and brought out by train. There's Chase County, which is on the other side of the state, in Imperial, which is a Tudor revival. I mean, you just have incredible courthouses, like the one we all passed by, I'm sure, here in Box Butte and Alliance. And I want to thank you because I get to go to Carhenge, which is another treat. We have Route 66 in Illinois, so we're always stopping by great roadside attractions, so that's where I'll be tomorrow, and I appreciate that opportunity. Who are we? So in what context am I actually coming to speak to you today? What we do at Landmarks Illinois is help county officials, both elected as well as the maintenance personnel, to find the resources they need to save their county courthouses. That's one of our jobs. Our organization was founded just about 50 years ago to save historic places in the city of Chicago, and we became a statewide organization in 1979. We are the only statewide historic preservation organization in the state of Illinois, and we cover all 102 counties there. We have 2 offices and 9 people to cover 12.5 million people across the state. So we know what it's like to be challenged. Like all of you, we have too few resources, we have too many people to serve, and we have a big job ahead of us. So we know the challenges that you're going through. And we are funded entirely through donations. We are a non-governmental organization. Some of the work that we do is it's all interesting to us, but it comes from all the way from mid-century modern things like the corn cobs, which is known as Marina Towers in downtown Chicago. This is actually a landmark property. It is a registered landmark from 1964, and we helped the city to landmark this property, all the way down to Metropolis, Illinois, which is in the very southern part of our state, touching Kentucky and the Ohio River, home of Superman, and the Massac County Courthouse right behind there. I know Alliance was a big stop for the solar eclipse last year, so was this area, so I just wanted to say Superman was ready as well with his solar glasses. And I'm putting for you the size of these communities so you can get a sense of how they relate to your own counties as well. So Metropolis is about 6,000 people. And we were trying to help them with a referendum in Massac County to reinvest in the county courthouse. And unfortunately, in this case, we failed. The referendum failed. And so not everything is a win. But I wanted to tell you that we understand that these are very complex cases, that when you go to referendum to ask the public, you have to have the best arguments that you can make. And that's what I want to provide you with today, are the economic arguments. The basis of our work is helping people save the places that matter to them, and I've showed you a couple, including the Tin Man, which is the water tower, very similar to the one you'll see here in Alliance. This is in tiny Millstadt, and we engage people to do that work. Everybody from from the maintenance worker who takes care of this, to the citizen who loves it, to young people, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and trying to get them to understand the value of historic places to their community's identity. We do that through storytelling, we develop case studies, and economic impact reports, which is what I'm going to focus on today. So in context, what are our two states like? You'll find that they're actually pretty similar. Nebraska has 93 counties, we have 102 counties, so not much more, but of course Nebraska is bigger, so that means you have more area to cover in your counties. Sometimes fewer the population may be smaller, but you've got a big job ahead of you to do in these big counties. So our square miles is about 20,000 less than yours. The population though, even though we have 12.8 million in the state, the counties that are outside of the most urban have about 3 million. So even those 0.3 of those are in other counties that would be considered urban. You have about 2 million in the state. And then urban versus rural are very similar. So 14 urban counties versus our 18 urban counties. So 85% to 82% are rural. We have the same issues that we are facing in our states. And but you have a great budget, which we wish we had. So the projected shortfall I was reading here in Nebraska was 200 million that turned into a $55 million windfall. At least that was the projected state budget. In my state, we have a $1.2 billion structural deficit in our state. And as you can see, 14.6 billion in unpaid bills and over $130 billion in pension liability that is underfunded. So we have big problems. Now, why do I tell you? First of all, be glad you're in Nebraska. Second, we all know when the state budget is tight, who gets squeezed? The counties. The counties get squeezed and the local governments get squeezed because the state doesn't have the money to pass through. So programs like the one that we ran are imperative to helping you with the maintenance tasks that you have. Additionally, there are limited capital bills. I didn't look ahead to see if Nebraska had a capital bill that it ran, but we have not had a capital bill in about 5 years, and that affects the counties as well. So this program was a privately funded program largely, and I just want to show you how this could be used. So I'm going to play this video, which is a great introduction, and then I'll go into a few of the details.
The courthouses of Illinois are the embodiment of beauty and a belief in justice and liberty for the people of Illinois. Preserving the heritage found in these courthouses is fundamental to a belief in the values of our society, of the legacy that our grandparents and great-grandparents built.
Landmarks Illinois is about people saving places. We started as a nonprofit organization in 1971 to help elected officials, property owners, homeowners with the tools that they needed to be successful in saving places that matter to them. The Courthouses initiative really began as an idea in 2009.
Since then, more than 20 communities have been granted matching funds from the Richard H. Driehaus Courthouse Initiative to begin renovations to their courthouses and to stimulate a rebirth of the town centers. But this is only a beginning.
The courthouses are the most significant piece of architecture in many of our small towns in Illinois.
And courthouses really represent the public. That's where I went for administration and for justice.
It's a place that is usually at the heart of the city plan.
The major roads of these towns were organized in squares around the county courthouse. This was the epicenter of these communities.
So they were not only important because of their size and their function, but important for civilization.
It's the place where we go to think about our public service, the memorialization of our veterans. Oftentimes you'll pass by on Memorial Day and you'll see these beautiful flags in the Courthouse Square as a monument to the service that we give to each other.
Because of the scale of these structures and the economic circumstances of these communities, many of these courthouses have been neglected. Buildings inevitably decay. It's the nature of buildings.
The most monumental building is the one that needs the most assistance in our communities, and oftentimes that is the courthouse.
Why we're doing this is because nothing has happened over the years, and something has to be done to make these buildings, in a way, come back to life. Whether it's repairing their bell tower, the clock, or lighting it's important to know that we care about architecture.
The power of the Illinois Courthouse Initiative is the enlightened stewardship of Landmarks Illinois, the generous gift by Richard H. Driehaus, and the incredible efforts of local citizens passionate about the heritage of their communities.
I've worked on the square for over 26 years. It was sad to see the condition that it was in, and so I kind of set it upon myself to try to figure out how to find some money, how to raise some money, and bring it back to its former glory.
A little stroll around the building one day, and it was quite evident that the building needed quite a bit of work. My parents have a deep love of the courthouse, and when I told them that I was actually going to be part of this committee, they were very happy.
These courthouse buildings represent our cultural heritage as well as our architectural heritage.
This is a courthouse that Lincoln worked in. Lincoln had written in his journal that he got lost in the wilderness on several occasions because he couldn't find the courthouse. So they built this one, and the very top part of this cupola is glass. The custodian would have to climb 5 ladders to get up, and he would hang a lantern there at nighttime, and that would help Lincoln and the early court find their way into the courthouse, into Metamora from the wilderness. The cupola was in very, very bad condition. The whole building was in deteriorating condition.
Many of the communities of Illinois only have the resources to heat these buildings and keep the water out. Restoring the architectural heritage is beyond their means.
The state's attorney in his office underneath the cupola, rain would be running down into his office. It was a problem that needed to be fixed, but it was something that Stark County on our own we could not do.
There was even talk one time about just eliminating it, cutting it off with a saw and patching up the roof, patching over it.
Without Landmark's assistance, the renovation would not have happened.
We get to experience architecture through light, a bright midday sun, a beautiful sunset. And at night, if the building is not lit, look at what we miss.
The Courthouses Initiative provides a model for us to frame other initiatives that could leverage resources from Landmarks Illinois, from private foundations, from private donors, county government, local government, to invest in the places that enhance our lives as citizens every day.
Well, hopefully this initial gift will instill pride in their community, and they continue to support this effort.
The courthouse is the jewel of our county.
I mean, there's nothing like it in this area that can compare.
This courthouse is the center not only of Toulon, but also a focal point for Stark County.
The courthouse brings a lot of character to our town.
And retaining the courthouse, maintaining it, will preserve our downtown area into the future.
I worked at the courthouse for many years, for about 13 years, and it's quite a landmark.
So it means a lot because I want this to be the gem that it really is. I want it to look like the gem that it is.
When we invest in the past, we're bringing forth a better future.
Did you recognize courthouses like your own in there? Some. How many of you are working on a historic courthouse? All right, so many of you. Do you have some of the same challenges that you heard in this film? Well, what I want to talk about is the program that you just saw and how it actually operated, and then what it did for the community in that it was in. So that when you're talking to your county supervisor or your county board, how do you make the argument to invest in this courthouse and what it's going to do for the citizens and for the community around it as well. So you heard that this was called the Richard H. Driehaus Courthouse Initiative. It was named for the benefactor who made a very generous gift to help us, and we'll get into that because I'm hoping that there is someone or a company in the state of Nebraska who will do the same. Mr. Driehaus is a hedge fund manager who lives in Chicago but cares deeply about historic resources all across the country. So he's been a benefactor, of properties all across the nation, but specifically he helps Illinois because that's his home state. And here's a quote on why he wanted to make this gift to help county courthouses, is that, as he said, the judicial system is really the foundation of our democracy. And as a result, the courthouse is an icon of democracy and our stability as a nation. And it reflects the development of our culture and our history as unique communities. And it's important to preserve these landmarks. So he did so, and this, I have very few slides that have this many words. I'm going to focus on the photos of the before and afters. But he made a $1 million gift, which was the most significant gift we had ever received at Landmarks Illinois, and that was to be given out as grants, matching grants to counties across the state that had a courthouse listed in the National Register of Historic Places. So it had to be a historic courthouse in this case. The purpose was to reinvest in the maintenance that needed, but also they had to be catalytic projects, and I'll go into what that meant later, but it had to stimulate something else in the community because as a person who bootstrapped their way in and is a self-made millionaire, Mr. Driehaus cares deeply about seeing his money leveraged in other ways, seeing it do more. He wants to see it return. So we gave out a total of 19 grants in 18 counties, over $700,000 in direct grants. These are one-to-one match. So when I said that they were mostly privately funded, we did require the counties to also chip in. And that was important to Mr. Driehaus equally because he wanted to see them have some skin in the game. He didn't want to just dole out a grant to the counties, they take it, and then they never do anything again with it. He wanted to see them actually invest. And so that actually leveraged $1.5 million in matching funds. So it did more than 2 to 1. And we had some money in the administration because we had a full-time person who had to administer these grants. But we also did the economic impact study, which I'm going to use. I have one copy if you want to see it a little bit later, as well as the film that you just showed, which I hope can be advantageous. If you want to talk to your county officials, show them that film. And then I've given you the executive summary from the study if you want to take this with you. So here's the layout. You saw this generally in our film. Most of our county grants went to what we call Central Illinois. And that doesn't mean we ignored North and South. We looked for county courthouses all across the state. We put out calls for grant applications to every county courthouse you can think of. But these were the 18 counties that were ready to go with something. They were essentially shovel-ready projects. Here's an example. This is Logan County Courthouse in Lincoln, Illinois. The population you can see here is just about 14,000, so it's a bigger regional center. And what they needed was help with their bell tower. Let me go back. So there is a historic view of the courthouse. Here's what it looked like after the grant. You can see this beautiful clock tower that they had in this wonderful dome. The dome was covering up a beautiful stained glass dome. Naturally, when you're thinking about the money that the county has, though, if you have to put it side by side, human services versus saving stained glass, it's hard for them to pick saving stained glass over human services. And so we needed to give them a little edge to help them do that because the dome was actually going to fall in on itself if they didn't have that kind of assistance. So what they did was they did a survey of the damage to that internal dome, as well as relighting the clock tower, and then they had the glass repaired and reinstalled. So here I showed you again, here is the cover of the study. We wanted to know what the impact was. So it's nice, isn't that nice that we saved the dome? Yes, that's all well and good. Looks beautiful, it's inspiring to people, but what was the impact of that? We needed to tell our donor this, as well as telling the counties why their investment actually made sense. So here are some of the facts from the Donovan Rupkema study. Donovan Rupkema is a national economist who focuses on economic impact of investment in historic places. We sent somebody out to all 18 counties that had had a grant, and we met with the local contact to ask what happened afterward. And we collected and evaluated the award and match money so we could know that, but we also calculated using IMPLAN, which is a data set that shows the direct, indirect, and induced impact. So what are the effects of the money that the county spent? Where was it spent, and how many people were put to work? And what we found is that the catalytic impact was incredible. So what I do have to say is it's difficult for Mr. Ripkeman to tell between correlation and causation, though. So would these things have happened otherwise? That was hard to deduce, but we did do our best to understand how the impact was influential, and that the subsequent investment in the courthouse was sometimes already planned, but we were able to put that into our data as well. So these are some of part of the methodology here. In our study, so here's an example of what we did for every one of the counties. We looked at the funds that were expended by the Driehaus grant and then the local funds that went in. So in this case, Edgar County, which was the Paris, Illinois, you saw that with Lady Justice, that was, she holds her hands out, that they spent actually 93% of the local funds went into that, which was incredible. But what happened afterwards is around the county square, they had 10 new businesses start after they invested in the clock tower. They had 95,000, almost 96,000 in new streetscape improvements. And then also they had a book that was written about the courthouse, which helped to bring people in. So the total project was 1.1 million. We gave about 82,000 of that, but the impact was significant. So we looked at all of the grants that we gave, and what we found the total impact to be over the entire program was that for every dollar of grant that we invested, the local impact was $5.46. So it had a more than 5-to-1 ratio. I think that's very powerful to take back to your counties, is that with a small amount of investment, using this program as an example, they can actually see more private investment coming into the main street around the county courthouse square as well. Here are additional the quantitative findings. So what we found is that nearly 9.5 million of subsequent investment was reported after we made these grants, including 6 million from the private sector. So I know that they'll ask you, well, okay, was that the local community that was putting in TIF funding, or was that additional county money? No, that was 6 million in private funding around the courthouse. And all of this is in the study, so you can point them to that. You know, additionally, these were local jobs. So 24 local firms provided goods and services. So your county may want to know, how is this actually helping local tradespeople? Is it employing them? Is it employing our local contractors? And yes, we did see the involvement of local contractors. We saw the involvement of city government as well as individuals. Dozens of businesses and foundations were helping to match the money as well. So the match was coming in from multiple sources locally. And 5 of the communities, 5 of those 18 counties, saw new businesses that were started after this around the county courthouse square. And as you can see, private investment in the facade work happened after this as well. So 5 communities made additional plans for additional improvements, so they didn't stop with this program, they kept going with it. 10, as you can see, undertook courthouse improvement projects beyond the ones that were funded here. So 5 were planned, 10 actually went through with that, and then the projects that provided the new lighting, which lighting is important to Mr. Driehaus specifically, actually reduced the electrical bills as well. I know many of you are thinking about sustainability in your communities, and so this program can actually help with that as well. So what does this all mean? I mean, the big picture, if you're going and you're talking, what are the takeaways that I want you to have? Investment spurs investment. So somebody has to be first in. Somebody needs to put their foot in and say, yes, our community matters, and we are going to invest in our community. Because you need a sense of hope. Especially business owners, they need to see that somebody is doubling down in the community. And that is oftentimes the local and county government that need to take the first step. That doesn't all need to be paid by the county, But it is important for the government to show that there is something happening. And so that investment, as you saw, spurred other investment, especially in our small businesses. So around the courthouse, think about your courthouse square, presumably, if you've got that type of plan. Usually it's small businesses that bring it. And you know, think about your community, you probably have vacancy around that. And some struggling businesses. So when those businesses see that the courthouse is going to be improved, many of them will actually improve their own facades. And then when they improve their facades, new businesses will start because people start coming. People will start walking downtown again, and they will start shopping downtown again. This is Ottawa, Illinois, not one of our courthouse squares, but I just want to say that this has happened in Ottawa specifically, where we've seen the serial business starts. When one person invests, other businesses invest. Additionally, stabilizing neighborhoods. So surrounding the courthouse square and surrounding the business district, of course, are our neighborhoods. And you know, around here I'm seeing, you know, lots of investment in the houses, but also a lot of for sale signs at the same time. You want to keep our intellectual capital in our communities. You know, how many of your communities are struggling with young people who are disappearing? You know, the young people want to flock elsewhere. They want to go to the big city. Well, we all know that they go to the big city for a while, but then when they want to raise their families, they come back home. And this is a way to make sure that you have a place for them, good schools, good housing stock, so there is a cumulative effect to the work that you do, because not only will it help local businesses, but it gives them someplace to go. When they want to go out for dinner at night, when they want to, I went to the pharmacy downtown because I needed something. There was a pharmacy downtown that I could walk to, which was incredible here in Alliance. Quincy is an example where this woman and her husband, Claire Gerlich, bought a house, they started investing in it, they bought the next house, the next house, the next house, and then 10 properties later, they have actually stabilized this entire historic district, and new people are now buying houses in that area. What about tourism? You know, people think tourism is sort of a panacea. That's all you need for economic development, is just thinking about tourism. I mean, in my experience of 20 years working in economic development with historic properties, tourism is the secondary thought. You need to serve the people in your own community first, because the tourists will come one and done, unless you give them a super experience, and then some of them will come back, obviously. But the people in your community need it to be strong for them to stay there, to open those businesses, and to serve the tourists. But I'm going to placate those who think tourism is, you know, the next step, because we do see that there is value in it. So you have the Lincoln Highway here in Nebraska. Now, it doesn't cover all of your counties, but it is an incentive. What we find is people love to come and see Route 66, which starts in Chicago, goes all the way through our state as it winds to California. So Route 66 has fueled international tourism in our state. I think the Lincoln Highway is just the same, as long as people understand that those two are actually connected in what they did to open up the West to people. So here's a quote from Corey Joe, who's the head of our tourism department, that we are learning today that travelers, whether international or visitors from other countries, want to experience something unique, something one of a kind. And they want to immerse themselves in local culture. And I think Route 66 has that. I would argue the Lincoln Highway is similar. So here's some other examples as you think about ancillary programs that the county could support or spur. Small gas station in Odell. I mean, Odell has 400 people. This is what it looked like when they got started. It is privately owned, and there's private money that went into it. Here's what it looks like now, and we have something like 100,000 tourists who come, and they actually go to Odell, and they stop here to grab a drink, essentially, right on Route 66. Including Paul McCartney, who came because he wanted to see Route 66. Now this is sort of the white elephant. You know, not everybody's going to get Paul McCartney to come to their state, but I wanted to put it out there that you create something unique, and people do come. Here are some selfies of people who live on Route 66 in Illinois, and they post, and when they post on Instagram, others will see and others will come. So including your congressmen, who are important to talk to them about the value of your courthouse. These are Congressman Darren LaHood and Danny Davis from the Springfield area, Central Illinois, who came to Route 66. We have a bill in Congress right now to reenact the scenic byway for Route 66, which is going to expire. And here's Congressman Davis trying to show his manliness, and he didn't ring the bell, though, unfortunately. I hope he's not watching. Economic impact studies are very important ways, though, to sell these ideas to your county board. So you can use ours, but I just want to say, think about how you can combine yourselves as NACO to also think about doing economic impact studies when you do start to reinvest in your communities. So authenticity can't be created from the ground up. I just want to say that that you can't just add water and now something is there in your downtown. You've got it, it's already there. And so use it and capitalize on it, like Pontiac, which is, again, Route 66, but you know, Pontiac is a community that has made use of its murals. So it's created murals that are based on the history of its community as art, and people stop there in droves. So the courthouse needs you. You are all the best advocates, the people who work in the courthouse, whether you're on the county board or a commission, or whether you are a maintenance person. I just wanted to put up there that in Lancaster County, there in Lincoln, Richard Bush, this is a maintenance worker. I found that he got an award for the work that he done, and the quote about him, this was just last year, was that his customer service was extraordinary and impeccable to the people of Lancaster County, but also he cared so deeply about his courthouse. Now I couldn't tell if it was this one or there is a historic courthouse as well. Which one was it? This one.
There is
now,
one historic.
This will be historic, though. I mean, the more that we think about it, you might say, ugh, I don't know about that. But this is the landmark of the future. And Mr. Bush is ensuring that this is going to be there for the people in Lincoln to enjoy. And he cares deeply about the courthouse. That could be you. You could be that advocate. So what did we learn from this initiative? I just wanted to put up here some lessons learned for us. Was we got to leverage those local grant funds with other funds. This is local development and job creation. You can sell it that way. The community is very satisfied when they see you working in the courthouse. They feel proud. It catalyzes additional investment around the courthouse. You see intergovernmental cooperation between the local and county government. And finally, historic preservation becomes a higher priority in the community, creating authentic and unique places. I have some ideas how you can get started if you want to. You know, developing preservation plans is important. So what do you need in your courthouse? What takes priority? What's first? You may have a local architect or engineer who can help you do that. Establish partnerships with nonprofits who can raise money. I don't know if NACO was a nonprofit. No. So they can't raise money in that way. What was that?
We are a nonprofit.
You are a nonprofit. So this may be one thing you could do. But the Western History Association at University of Nebraska, Omaha is a nonprofit. It's housed in there. Maybe that's a group that you could see a unique partnership with who could actually help to raise some funds. Try to establish a partnership to find a foundation or individual that can help with the matching money. And then solicit that matching donation. Pick catalytic projects, ones that have some sexy factor to them so people get excited about it. HVAC systems don't get people excited, do they? No. But they're necessary. But you may want to do something first, like the clock tower or like the stairs, something that looks really, really horrible. Do that because people need to see it to feel hope. And then do the HVAC system later. And make sure your staff is trained, because we were just talking about some horror stories when the staff, I mean, well-meaning, you know, use duct tape to close everything up. Yes, we need to do that in some certain circumstances, but we also need to know how to protect the historic value, the historic integrity, because that's what makes it unique in the courthouses. So I'll just end by saying, you know, we think about preservation as serving people. People come first. We serve the citizens of our communities because we value them. And they are there paying their taxes to protect the assets of the community. So places are for people and for them to use. And so I just give you some faces. Sometimes people think about preservation as just about buildings. It's actually about sustaining the people in your community and the places that they care about. So here are some people that we work with all across the state and the places that they love. So I just want you to think about the places that you love in your community and, you know, imagine who you're going to involve in your project. So I'm very happy to answer your questions. Here's my contact information, and in our corporate sponsors for our organization, I have my business cards here. If you're too nervous to come and talk to me, or you don't like my accent, you can call me later or email me. And I am very proud to have talked to you about this program. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, I've answered them all. Or you're in your food coma. I don't know, which one is it? Food coma. Okay. Well, thank you very much for this opportunity to talk with you. I do have the economic impact study if you want to look at some other communities with a population similar to yours. We only printed a handful of these, but we have it on our website, so you can download it, as well as the video, which I think Leroy's going to send you the link. It's only 6 minutes. You can show it to the county officials very quickly. That's on our YouTube channel. So thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the conference.